So now that I'm back, I wanted to jump into a ranking of the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. As a lot of you know, I've been doing watch parties for the entire Nightmare on Elm Street series on my channel, and they've been really fun. I've had a great time doing them, but now it's time to rank the entire franchise, so let's get right into it. So I'm sure many of you have guessed this already, but coming in last place we have the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot from 2010. Where do I even start with this one? I can have a good time with it, I guess, in the right situation, but it's just a bunch of things from other Nightmare on Elm Street movies smashed into one movie, and it just doesn't do it for me. The main character, Rooney Mara, is just terrible as Nancy, and then we have this awesome secondary character who's played by Katie Cassidy, who's amazing. Like, Katie Cassidy has so much more star power than Rooney Mara in this movie, it's not even funny. And not to mention that Rooney Mara didn't give a shit about this movie and barely even tried, and it really shows through in her performance. If I had to give one major prop to this movie, it would be the scene in the pharmacy later on when Nancy's running up the aisle and she's experiencing micronaps and Freddy is trying to get her, and she keeps flashing back and forth between the dream world and reality, and Freddy's swinging his claws and stuff is falling off the shelves. Like, I think that's actually one of the best scenes in the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, which is kind of funny because it comes from such a sucktacular film. On to the next one. Coming in 8th place, we've got Freddys Dead, The Final Nightmare. Now, my 8th spot and my 7th spot can interchange pretty much at any time. I like Freddys Dead for what it is. I know a lot of people really hate this entry in the franchise because it's just too silly for them. It's definitely the point where Freddy's kind of gone off the deep end and he's full-on iconic pop culture Freddy at this point. But, I don't know, there's certain things about this movie that I do enjoy. I like that we're focusing on Freddy's backstory a little bit. I like that we're getting to meet his daughter, Amanda Krueger. I like some of the kills in this movie as well. But I think just the overall, like, hokey atmosphere of this one, plus the ending where they once again pull Freddy out of the dream world and try to kill him, is a little bland. Like, why do the same thing again when we already know as an audience that it's not gonna work? One thing I would say about this movie that I do kind of enjoy is later on when Amanda actually goes inside Freddy's brain or inside his mind, and we get to see Freddy growing up as like a kid, and you see his dad and you see his mean classmates and him killing animals and just kind of leading up to the point of him becoming the actual Freddy Krueger that we know. I did enjoy that backstory, even though it wasn't necessarily executed in the best way possible. And coming in 7th, we've got a Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. Now, like I said, Dream Child and Freddy's Dead are pretty much interchangeable for me. I don't really like one or the other like a ton more than the other. I would say I like Nightmare on Elm Street 5 a little more because it continues off of 4 and we have Alice returning and Dan returning. And I really like their characters, especially Alice. However, this movie definitely is a big drop from Nightmare on Elm Street 1 to 4 in terms of quality. I don't know what it is, maybe it's just the different makeup or just the way they go about it. I just find this movie has something missing from it that the first 4 have. Like, I don't mind Super Freddy like some people, and like, I know a lot of people don't really like her friend group in this one, but I actually really like her friend Yvonne in this one and how she's not a believer for like most of the movie. And then once Freddy actually comes to get her, she's like, oh shit, and then she's like fully like helping Alice after that. I do like the flippant character as she realizes, oh shit, this is real. I actually really like at the end as well when they're in that room and there's all the weird staircases and Freddy's pretending to be Dan. I don't necessarily like the kids stuff, especially when Jacob comes out and he's like, make me like you and all that weird stuff, but I do like the confrontation between Freddy and Alice because Alice is like one of the ones that got away. And coming in 6th place, we've got Freddy vs. Jason. Funny enough, it's also in 6th place on my Friday the 13th ranking. I have a lot of fun with this movie, even though there's definitely some issues with it. When it first came out way back in 2003, literally, I watched this movie every day after school on DVD. I would come home and pop it in and watch it. Like, it was my favorite movie back then for sure. I really love all the stuff with Freddy and Jason going up against each other in this movie. Like the first dream sequence when they battle it out is really amazing, and when they pull Freddy out of the dream world later and him and Jason are going against each other in reality at Crystal Lake, like that is some of the best stuff in the franchise. Like Freddy coming up with ways to actually fuck up Jason, and the fact that he actually does such an amazing job against Jason in the real world is incredible. A lot of people like to say that Jason won Freddy vs. Jason, but in my opinion, neither one of them won, or they both won, I guess. Freddy's still alive at the end. I think people forget that Freddy does not need a body at all to do what he's got to do, and the fact that he winked and laughed at the end pretty much meant that he had accomplished his goal of coming back and spreading fear and making people remember him again. And meanwhile, Jason is also alive and back at Crystal Lake, so neither one of them really lost. And coming in 5th place, we've got Nightmare on Elm Street 4 Dream Master. Now, I know this movie seems to get a lot of hate these days, but I actually like it a lot. Especially if you can see my shirt here. I love this Nightmare on Elm Street 4 shirt that I have. If I had to make a major complaint about this movie, it would probably be that the survivors from Dream Warriors get killed off so quickly. It's heartbreaking to lose Joey, Kincaid, and Kristen right off the bat like that. However, I do like that it leads into Alice being a stronger character when she absorbs all their like soul / personality / dream abilities, and then she uses that power to take Freddy on later on. I think there's a lot of really fun stuff in this movie, like Deb's death later on, and the whole sequence of Alice and Dan trying to get to Deb's place to save her, and they get caught in like the dream loop. I really like that scene. Alright, on to the next one. Coming in 4th place, we've got Nightmare on Elm Street 2 Freddy's Revenge. Now this one has definitely flip-flopped a lot on my list over the years. Back when I first was getting into horror movies, this one was probably towards the lower end of my Nightmare on Elm Street rankings. But now that I've gotten a chance to actually really appreciate it and what it's trying to do in that movie, I like it so much more now that I'm an adult. I think that the gay subtext in the movie is actually really great. It makes the movie so much more unique than a lot of other horror movies. And I think Jesse is a great main protagonist. I would have loved to have seen him come back in another Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And if I had to pick like one major scene or something that I really liked from this one, it's definitely the pool scene later on where all the kids are seeing Freddy for the first time and he's like jumping through the window and throwing shit around and throwing people around, and the pool's on fire and people are getting trampled and the hedges are catching on fire. Like, such a great scene, and seeing everyone's reaction to Freddy is really awesome. Especially when he does the, "You are all my children now." Ha 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 ha. Like, such an amazing scene. And I do like the final part of the ending when they're on the bus and Freddy's glove comes up out of the girl's chest. A nice way to finish off the movie, and it harkens back to the ending of Nightmare on Elm Street 1. And in 3rd place, we've got the original Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, I know some of you are probably screaming at the screens right now that I don't have it as my number 1. And as much as I really like the original Nightmare on Elm Street, the movies that are above it are just a little bit more fun to me. I just enjoy them a little bit more. That's not to say I don't enjoy Nightmare on Elm Street 1, because I really like Nightmare on Elm Street 1. Nancy is one of the most iconic scream queens out there, and I love her so much. If I had to make one major complaint about this movie, it's maybe that it's not as fun as the other Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I think it really has that creepy atmosphere, and that works for it really well, and I know a lot of you love the first one because it's creepy, but I think I just like that pop culture jokey Freddy a little bit more than the Freddy that we get in this movie. If I had to pick something out of the movie that I really loved, I would definitely go with Glenn's death towards the end of the movie, when he's sitting there not paying attention and Freddy grabs him and pulls him down into the bed and all the blood is shooting out. That death, and also Tina's death from the beginning where she's dragged at the side of the wall and slashed open. Such amazing kills in not only the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but in horror as a whole. Alright, now it's time for the final 2. One thing I will say before I reveal who's in my 2nd place is that my number 1 and number 2 spot are also ones that can interchange sometimes. I think right now I'm pretty solid in which one I like more, but there's a lot of times where I'm not sure. So for right now, I will say number 2 is Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. The thing I like about Dream Warriors so much is that Nancy returns, and she's just a force to be reckoned with in this one. She's trying to save the kids, especially when she realizes Freddy's back. She's doing everything she can to protect them. The entire cast in this movie is really great. Joey, Kincaid, all of the other kids, even though they all get killed off. I think they do a really great job in this movie, and it's got one of the most iconic lines in the entire franchise. "Welcome to prime time, bitch." Who doesn't love that scene in this movie? If you don't like that scene, let me know in the comment section down below, because I've got a talking to for you. If I had to choose something that I didn't like about this movie, it would be Nancy's death at the end. It's so heartbreaking watching her die after seeing her survive Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and being the main character. If I could change anything, it would definitely be Nancy surviving. But I do think that the death of Nancy brought real impact and emotional weight to this movie, so I do understand why they did it. And obviously, first place goes to Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Something I really love about this film is the transition of Heather Langenkamp into Nancy Thompson throughout the movie. At the beginning, she's very clearly Heather Langenkamp. She's dealing with all her day-to-day bullshit, dealing with her babysitter and her stalker and all that kind of stuff. And then as things get worse and Freddy starts breaking into reality and really starts affecting her, she has to play that role of Nancy one last time, to the point where she's outside of her house and John Saxon has become her father from the movie, and he's like, "Why are you calling me John, Nancy?" And she's like, "Why are you calling me Nancy, John?" And she's got the pajamas on from the original movie, and she has to accept being Nancy that one final time. And that allows Freddy to break through into the real world. Like, such an amazing scene. I don't think there's very much that I don't like about this movie. It's a little bit of a, I guess, slow burn at the start, but they really keep feeding you enough awesome scenes that it keeps you enthralled throughout the movie. I think if there's one thing I had to change about the entire movie, it would maybe be the kill count, because there's not that many kills throughout the movie, but the ones we do get are really awesome. And the one I want to bring up is the babysitter Julie. She gets a different version of Tina's death from the original movie, and it's so amazing. Seeing her get dragged up the wall, her not being able to see Freddy, but Dylan can see Freddy. Such an amazing scene in this movie. Like I said before, this one sometimes goes back and forth with Dream Warriors as my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie, but I think the more and more I actually see Wes Craven's New Nightmare, the more it is solidified as my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie of them all. Alright guys, so that's my entire ranking for the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I had a lot of fun watching through them all in the live streams and then getting to do this ranking. Like I said before, this list is pretty solidified. The only two that could really kind of switch spots potentially would be Nightmare on Elm Street 5 Dream Child and Freddys Dead. Those two movies for me are basically neck and neck in terms of likability. However, when I get to the movies at the top, like New Nightmare and Dream Warriors, those two are also very close. But at this point, New Nightmare has solidified itself as my #1 favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Nightmare on Elm Street may not be my favorite horror franchise of them all, but Freddy Krueger himself is such an iconic horror villain, and he actually might be my favorite horror villain of them all. His personality is just so amazing, and I love his jokey mannerisms as he kills everybody. I love me some Jason and Michael, but Freddy is just so unique to all the other horror villains out there. But I want to know how you guys rank the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Let me know what's your favorite, least favorite, 1 through 9. Let me know in the comment section down below. Alright guys, until the next one, have a good one.